Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co-founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this is Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. This episode is brought to you by Amplified Marketing Group. They specialize in affordable mobile solutions that will get you noticed and help you retain your customers. Check them out at yourphoneguy.com. That's yourphoneguy.com. Our guest today, I'm so excited about, is Erica Sunshine Lee. Erica is a Nashville prolific songwriter with 9 original albums. She plays 250 shows a year since 2007 globally, won a 2019 TRMA Video of the Year, and penned 40 plus songs recorded by Nashville artists, including a top 40 hit. Hi, Erica, and welcome to the show.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just, we're all hunkering down here. I got 48,000 rolls of toilet paper, so I'm good to go.
I watch that online and I just have to smile because I just keep thinking, what are people thinking? I don't.
They're not.
Yeah, right. And in 8 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, there's going to be a huge sale on Amazon where all these people or eBay where they're going to try and get rid of all this toilet paper, or, the toilet paper manufacturer isn't going to have anything to produce because people aren't going to need toilet paper for a really long time. So
I know, we'll be rolling yards.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So I want to share a little bit. So I had the pleasure of meeting you. You came to my office. Let's share the story about how you heard about myself and about Hello, Gorgeous.
Well, about 2 years ago, I fell into tropical rock as a genre. I've been writing country songs for 12 years, and I've met some incredible people that work with the Parrot Heads, and so I was invited to play an event up in St. Joe, Michigan, and one of the friends that I met, Mindy Johnson, and I were talking, and she said that they were one of the causes, because with Parrot Heads, they party with a purpose, and so one of their causes was Hello, Gorgeous. And I was asking questions. I was like, that sounds cool. What is that? And she told me that it was a nonprofit organization that helps women that are battling cancer feel great about themselves and feel renewed and just being able to feel like a woman again and just all the inspirational things. And I was like, this is so amazing. I was like, it's about a woman. Are you serious? I was like, well, because I just wrote a song called Change the World, and it's like to inspire women to be able to use their gifts and talents, no matter their background, age, or anything, to be able to change the world for the better, and not just to go out and make a ton of money and be successful, but to actually have a purpose behind it. And so I was super inspired by your story, and I was like, I have to meet her. And so when I found out you were in South Bend and I was in South Bend, then obviously we were able to make it happen. And it was funny because I could have flown back the next day, but I decided when I booked my flight, I'm going to stay there for an extra day. Whether Mindy likes it or not, I'm going to hang out with her. And then sure enough, it was a God divine plan, because I got to meet y'all and check out the headquarters and just learn about your company. It was pretty amazing.
Well, you inspired us, though. What you do is absolutely amazing. I'm sure that there are a ton of little girls out there that aspire to do what you do, to be a recording artist. You just shared with me that you're there with your friend writing a new song. That's some little girl, that's their dream. How did you get in? How did you know that you wanted to be a performer?
Well, it's interesting. I really didn't know it was an option as a career, but when I was like 5, I was singing in the school play, telling all the kids their lines. So I guess I always loved to be on stage and to have that ability to sing. And I sang in church when I was younger, and then I started singing in a worship band in middle school, leading worship at church, and playing around different churches. So then as I moved on and I started waitressing and putting myself through high school and college, and then I sang karaoke anytime I got the chance. And then I moved to California at 18 and started selling cars. So for me, sales, business, marketing was my degree. And so I was just used to that interaction. And I thought I was going to be a big CEO wearing a corporate suit downtown in a big city. And I never really knew that musicians could be, a career. I just thought that was a hobby or whatever. So I was singing, and a guy and a girl heard me, and she linked me up with his band. And so I started singing with his classic rock band for 2 years. And then after we kind of butted heads, I just quit and took his bass player and drummer and started my own band. And we're friends later on. He's since passed away, but John Lawton was a really inspirational turn in my point of realizing that you could do that as a career. So I was playing about 5 shows a week, working full time selling cars. And then I quit that, went into a different field as a headhunter. And after 6 months of being a financial and accounting recruiter, it wasn't my end all be all. I knew that wasn't what I was super passionate about, even though I love meeting the different people, but it just wasn't like what I was set on earth to do. And when I got laid off in the downturn, I was able to just really step back and go, you know what, this is a perfect time in my life. I felt like God was just like, yeah, it's time. So I started touring a little bit more outside of the San Francisco Bay Area, going back and forth to Georgia playing, and then it just snowballed from there. I went to Nashville. I recorded my first album in Georgia with a friend, and then when I found Nashville and was walking up and down Music Road, knocking on doors and handing out my CDs, I luckily stumbled into one of the best producers in town and met their A-list recording crew and started recording my albums in Nashville. And since the third one, I haven't looked back. So I'm actually going into the studio tonight to record some new music here with those same guys, the same producer that I met 12 years ago, walking up and down Music Road.
Wow. That's so inspirational. And so, there's a question I like to ask, and that is that I'm sure you have down days, and I'm sure you felt like back in those early days, nobody's ever going to listen to your music. Nobody's ever going to. What gave you the gumption to knock on one more door? What gave you the inspiration, I guess, to keep going? What did you have to keep telling yourself?
I think it's kind of innate. I played sports all through when I was growing up, and I played sports in college. So maybe it's the athletic background, the competitive nature. Maybe it's my genetic makeup of my grandfather being one of the best salesmen in the Southeast. He owned a general store and a restaurant, and everybody always said I'm a chip off the block. But I don't really think that, especially during my training as a car salesman, that you can't take no for an answer. So our boss always told us it takes 10 no's to get a yes, and it's a numbers game. And so I guess I've just always had it in me to where you knock long enough and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so I'm the squeakiest wheel out there, and I was making sure that I'd get the grease,
That's awesome. So you were just saying, you shared with me before we got on the air that you just finished writing a song. What do you do to get into that songwriting mode?
I don't ever get out of songwriting mode, honestly. I feel like whatever's going on in my life is always a song. And no matter if it's happy, sad, upbeat, crazy, it could be personal or it could be completely made up, fabricated. I can write about what somebody else is going through, what I'm going through, or I can just make up a story, or I can channel 15 years ago something I was going through. So it just depends. For me, it's just always even on the tough days, like I feel like I've just got a lot of thoughts going through my head. So they usually just turn into lyrics. And when I'm driving down the road, I'll sing into my voice memo, and I'll always have kind of some hook or idea or thoughts. And I think once you're a songwriter, if you're genuinely a songwriter, not just an artist, I think there's a big difference. And sometimes people that are artists write their own songs. But for me, the difference of the songwriter is being able to write a song about anything for anybody, versus just being able to write a song about yourself and your personal emotions and experiences. So being able to kind of put myself in other people's shoes and write for other artists and pitch songs to them that I know are going to be a story that they'd want to tell, I think has just been a gift that I've had. And I love being able to share that with other people and to write for other artists and just put myself in that mode, because it's really one of those things that, especially being in Nashville, I mean, there's always, oh, that'd be a good song idea. Oh, that's a good hook. Or, you just kind of are always looking for that next idea, the next best song. As I'm sure, chefs are probably looking at their ingredients constantly thinking, what can I whip up now? So it's probably similar.
So what is it? What comes first? Is it the words to the story that comes first, or is it the melody that comes first that you match the words to?
So for me personally, I know everybody's different, but for me, about 95% of the time, it's the words. I always have the words, or I'll pick up the guitar and start strumming along and playing something. But there's been a couple of times, like I can remember all the specific songs that I have basically come up with a guitar lick or music for first. And when I was sitting in a camper, I just gotten finished playing and touring in Key West. And I was back in California, and I was just playing this lick. So it was like a simple walk down. And then I started just thinking like, oh man, that sounds cool, like a little bit of a reminiscent beach song. And then I was like, sitting at the sand trying to find the gold. And so then I came up with the words after I came up with that lick. And the same thing that happened with Everyone Loves a Country Girl, that song, I was sitting in my parents' living room and I was like, so that kind of lick came to me, and then I started writing Everyone Loves a Country Girl. But when those happen, it's more rare. Last week I was writing with my buddy Nick DeLeo, and I just started strumming in the middle of our song. We were writing another song, but then I had another idea for it. And those kind of licks, when they come along, you kind of got to grab them. They're like lightning in a bottle for me, because I'm not as strong of a lead guitarist as some of the other guys that I've written with. But it seems like every time I come up with a lick, those are the songs like that stick with people.
That's awesome. What's your favorite song to perform?
Drinking and Praying has probably been one of the most powerful and impactful songs, just because I know so many people have struggled with all kinds of addictions, and being able to share my faith in a non-threatening, non-preachy way, and just giving them my personal testimony of going through struggles in life, and being able to kind of realize that no matter what you bury your sorrows in, no matter what you run to for comfort, at the end of the day, God is the only thing that can get you through. And that faith has pulled me through a lot of dark times in my life, and people around me. And my uncle, who has been an alcoholic since I was born, is now 66, and he's been 2 years sober. So I know anything's possible with God, because I prayed for him my whole life. So no matter what people are going through, I've seen him turn it around, and I've seen that song bring tears to some pretty tough, hard, callous shell people in my shows. And so I know that God gave me those lyrics to be able to speak to people and try to impact their lives for the better, and just step back and realize, that if you're going to be addicted to something, be addicted to Jesus, because the rest of it's just temporary.
That's right. So you and I discovered that we have an author in common when you were here at the office, and you did the prayer challenge, the 40-day prayer challenge by Mark Batterson, and had a pretty cool outcome with that. Can you share that story?
There were so many stories that came out from me reading that devotional book. It was definitely a life pivotal moment for me. And Draw the Circle, it taught me so much more about my prayer life and how to have a stronger faith, and not to just ask God like Santa Claus, hey, can you bring me a new bike? But it wants to teach us. I love that book showed me how to persevere, and how to pray with a purpose, and how to constantly pray and not give up. God sometimes just wants to see how much you're going to knock, kind of like those knocking on doors on Music Row. But God sometimes want to see how persistent we are, and how much do we trust him, and are we faithful? And I think that sometimes those answers, even though it's hard, you get yes, no, slow, or grow. And I think that he teaches us those things, and being able to sell my house by waiting 2 years and praying with a purpose, and praying like it depended on God, like those doors that opened for me. I had prayed. Well, I had wanted to write with #1 songwriters for years, but until I read that book, and it told me to pray specific prayers, and I started praying with like very specific intents, and I started praying to be able to write with #1 songwriters. And in 30 days, I wrote with 4 #1 songwriters, and I was like, this is not a coincidence. God, you're listening. And it was just really amazing. I feel like it taught me how to just step back and look and see what am I doing it for? Because God gave every one of us gifts and talents, and I think once we start using them for his glory, then he's going to bless us a lot more anyway, because that's what he wants us to do with them. So it was just an amazing learning experience, and I still have a lot of stories, even like reading the lesson of the mustard seed, and the faith of a small mustard seed can move a mountain. And that was one of the devotionals in that book. And a few months later, it just hit me one morning about my cousin's struggle to being a mom, and her miscarriages, and just the struggles they went through up and down of not being able to get pregnant. And they've now got 2 baby boys. And so the lyrics hit me like a ton of bricks that morning. And it was like, maybe the kid was a year or 2. So it wasn't even like right when it was, but God just knew that was the perfect time for me to write that song, and to encourage people, no matter what they're going through, that, sometimes what we're praying and what we're wanting isn't necessarily what God has planned. And if we could just take the blinders off and see a year or 2 or 10 up the road, that the pain you're going through now, and the sorrow and the struggle, is kind of the fuel that gets you to the next level and makes you grow.
That's right. And I think that so many people, they give up, or they lose faith, or they don't count on, it's always the right time. It's always the right moment. It's always the right person. I think that we try and control too many things. And I think that that's what the 40-day prayer challenge did for me too, was you just kind of give it to God, right? Because no matter
Right.
what happens, he knows